Buckle up, everyone, because we're diving headfirst into The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. And oh boy, have you guys sent us a ton of stuff about this one. Reviews, critiques. Looks like this book really hits a nerve. Which, you know me, I love a good debate.
Yeah, it really shakes up that whole, like, get rich slow thing. DeMarco basically throws down the gauntlet and says, if you want to build wealth fast, it's all about entrepreneurship, creating value, not so much your traditional jobs and investments.
He's got that whole 3 roads to wealth idea, right? The sidewalkers, the slowlaners, the fastlaners. You can just picture them all on their separate paths, can't you?
Oh, yeah, it's vivid, that's for sure. You got your sidewalkers barely getting by, paycheck to paycheck. Then the slow laners, working hard, saving for retirement, but maybe wondering if they're missing out on, actually living now. And then zoom, here go the fast laners, those entrepreneurs, building businesses, shooting for the moon way earlier in life.
But reading through these sources, some reviewers didn't love how he talks about the slow laners. It's like he's saying they're just sheep, blindly following the crowd, even if they're being responsible and all.
Yeah, I see that. Plenty of people find a lot of meaning in their work. Financial stability is a big deal, too. Doesn't mean they're settling or anything. And it's kind of funny. DeMarco himself worked a regular job to get the money for his first business. Saved up, just like the slow laners.
Makes you wonder if that Lamborghini he talks about running into maybe got to him a little, The whole fast cars, early retirement image could be setting some folks up for disappointment, especially younger readers.
Yeah, that definitely came up in a few of the sources.
Yeah.
I mean, he does say it's get rich quickly, not quick. But the book still pushes that idea of, like, massive wealth in a short amount of time. Could be misleading. One reviewer even compared it to, like, telling kids to go for the NBA. Like, those hoop dreams. Huge talent, slim chances.
Then there's how he breaks down the chances of success for each path, saying slow laners only have like a 17% shot at real wealth. Because of things like, oh, the market will crash or they'll lose their job, doesn't quite sit right with me. What about those folks saving like crazy, investing smart?
Yeah, that's a good point. He doesn't seem to give much credit to a high savings rate. Compound interest over time, that's powerful stuff. Plus, he kind of skims over the risks of starting a business. It's hard to build a successful company. Many fail. And even the ones that make it often take years. Years of crazy work and uncertainty.
Okay, so maybe the Millionaire Fastlane isn't some magic formula, but it's not all smoke and mirrors either. There are some solid ideas in there, like really focusing on entrepreneurship, that whole concept of creating value.
Oh, for sure. His sense framework is helpful,
Yeah.
Control, entry, need, time scale. It forces you to think about, are you solving a real problem people will pay for? Can your business actually grow beyond just you?
He uses some pretty memorable examples, too. Like, remember that fidget spinner shop analogy? Sure, you might make a quick buck when they're hot, but when everyone moves on, what then?
Exactly. A business built on a fad is just going to fade away.
And the way he compares businesses that rely on platforms like Amazon to hitchhikers. You're at the mercy of someone else's rules.
Yeah, you got to be the driver, he says.
I love that.
Making the decisions, shaping your own success.
That driver analogy is spot on. Makes you really think about how much control you actually have over your finances.
Absolutely. And it ties into another key idea, the difference between a producer and a consumer mindset. DeMarco says you got to shift gears from just passively consuming to actively creating value, building things, solving problems, ultimately generating wealth. It's about contributing, not just consuming.
Okay, so how do we actually apply that? I mean, we're not all going to be entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, but it's about recognizing that potential we all have to create value. Could be starting a side hustle, getting really good at a skill that's in demand, even just being more efficient and productive at your job.
And maybe just taking everything we hear about money with a grain of salt, like DeMarco says. Question the conventional wisdom. Find a path that actually fits you, your goals, values, how much risk you're comfortable with.
Yeah, one reviewer said it perfectly. To each their own. There's no one right way to build wealth.
So we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive into The Millionaire Fastlane. Definitely a book that gets people talking, giving us a lot to think about already.
Oh, we've just scratched the surface. Next time, we're going to get into DeMarco's law of affection, see how that ties into building wealth, and of course, keep looking at those different critiques and perspectives from your sources.
To get a more complete picture of this book, it's all about finding what works best for you. It's funny how that whole creating value thing ties into DeMarco's law of affection. We're going to get into now. Oh yeah, the law of affection. So from what I'm seeing in these sources, it's basically like the more good you do in the world, the more successful you'll be. Kind of a cool idea, right?
It is, yeah. He's saying real wealth comes from the value you give to others. It's not about just stacking up cash for yourself. It's about making a real difference for people. And it's like the opposite of the law of attraction, which he thinks is kind of just wishful thinking.
So you can't just want to be rich. You have to actually do something that helps other people. It's not enough to just make a product or a service. It has to actually solve a problem.
Exactly. And that loops back to the sense framework,
Mm-hmm.
especially the need part and the scale part. A good fast lane business has to solve a real need people will pay for. And it has to be able to reach a lot of people.
I wonder how that law of affection idea hits different people. Some might think it means starting businesses with like a social mission, while others might focus on creating value in a more traditional business.
That's a really interesting point. Yeah, people could definitely interpret it in different ways. But I think the main thing is aligning your business with a purpose, something that feels meaningful to you, something that has impact.
It's like he's pushing entrepreneurs to think bigger, not just about their own money, but how their business can actually make the world a better place.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where that scale thing from Sense comes in. DeMarco's big on businesses that can grow huge, have a really wide impact. He talks about hitting home runs, not just singles. Like, think small local business versus something that can reach millions.
So if you're going for that home run business, what should you be thinking about? How do you take an idea and make it something that impacts that many lives?
Well, he talks a lot about execution based on his own experience. You can have the best idea ever, but if you can't actually make it, get it out there to people. It's not going to go anywhere.
So be a doer, not just a dreamer, right?
100%. And he's all about building a strong brand, not just a business. Brands last, he says. Businesses can become just another commodity. Building a brand means standing out, having a unique identity people connect with, being known for quality and value.
Which leads to loyal customers, being able to charge more, and ultimately more success.
Right, exactly. And he has specific advice on how to do that, like figuring out what makes you unique, your selling point, creating strong marketing messages, and always being ahead of the game when it comes to innovation and customer service.
One reviewer mentioned how DeMarco's not into those traditional marketing tactics, all hype and empty promises.
Oh, yeah?
He's all about being genuine, giving people real value.
For sure. He believes in putting the customer first. Happy customers are your best ads, he says. Listen to them. See complaints as feedback, not attacks. Go above and beyond to make them happy.
I love that, turning complaints into a way to grow. It's easy to get defensive when someone criticizes you. But if you see it as data, it can help you make your business better.
It's a growth mindset,
Yeah.
DeMarco's says it's crucial for entrepreneurs. Embracing challenges, learning from mistakes, always trying to improve.
It's interesting, though, comparing this with how he talks about slowlaners. You could argue that a lot of people in traditional jobs have those same qualities. Hard work, perseverance, commitment to learning. The difference seems to be the approach to building wealth, not necessarily their character or work ethic.
That's a great point. It reminds us there are many different paths to success, each with pros and cons.
Speaking of paths, DeMarco's really big on choosing your path and sticking with it. One reviewer mentioned his idea of business monogamy versus business polygamy, now that I got to hear more about it.
Oh yeah, he uses those terms to describe two different ways of doing things. Business monogamy is focusing on one business idea, giving it everything you've got. He doesn't like it when people jump from idea to idea, never committing. He calls it Tekel syndrome. Says it almost never leads to big success.
So focus and dedication. But does he ever say it's okay to try new things?
He does, actually. He talks about business polygamy as being able to create multiple streams of income, especially once you've already found success with your first business. Then you can use your skills and resources to branch out, like diversifying your entrepreneur portfolio.
That makes sense. I wonder if that applies to people in more traditional careers, too. Maybe it's about having different skills that work in different jobs, building a strong network, or even having a side hustle to boost your income.
Exactly. It's about having options, creating more ways to grow and be financially secure.
For all his talk about action and doing, DeMarco also talks a lot about having a clear vision for the future, like really defining your goals, picturing your dream life, making a solid plan to get there.
Oh yeah, he even suggests some kind of interesting ways to make those dreams feel more real, like making a visual representation of your goals, or buying a little symbolic thing that represents what you want, like a toy version of your dream car, something like that.
Just to keep you motivated. remind you why you're working so hard. This has been a great conversation. We've covered so much, from the law of affection to building a brand to focusing on your goals. I'm really starting to see why this book gets people talking.
Oh, there's so much to unpack here, and we're not done yet. Next time, we'll look at some of the criticisms of DeMarco's ideas, the alternative perspectives and those sources you sent, and talk about how these ideas might resonate differently with different people. It's all about finding what works best for you.
All right, so we've seen what the Millionaire Fastlane is all about, but let's face it, not everyone's going to be zooming down that lane. Some folks are happy cruising in the slow lane, and some are taking a totally different route altogether.
Right, and it's important to remember, this book has definitely stirred up some controversy. A lot of the reviewers pointed out what they see as weaknesses in DeMarco's arguments, especially about traditional investing, and just how hard it actually is to be a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah, one of the biggest things people brought up is that he basically throws saving and investing out the window, especially saving a lot and investing consistently over time. Like, he's saying the slow lane is a one-way ticket to mediocrity, even if you're doing everything right.
Yeah, he's definitely pushing the fast lane as the way to get rich. But those reviewers made some really good points. Some even share their own stories about how they've done really well financially by saving, investing smart, and having careers they actually enjoy.
It's a good reminder that there's no magic formula when it comes to money. What works for one person might not work for another, and there are lots of different ways to be successful. It's all about finding what fits your goals and values.
Exactly, and speaking of values, DeMarco got a lot of flack for how he portrays slow laners. It came across as pretty negative, like he doesn't get that people can find fulfillment in their jobs and want financial stability without feeling like they're wasting their lives.
I think it's important to remember who DeMarco's writing for. He's talking to people who aren't happy with the way things are, who want more than just a comfortable retirement someday, and who are willing to take on the risks that come with starting a business.
Yeah, he's speaking to the dreamers, the innovators,
Yeah.
the people who want to create something amazing.
But readers definitely need to take his advice with a grain of salt. Think about what they prioritize, and realize that his path might not be right for everyone.
Definitely. One reviewer made this really great comparison. They said it's like telling every kid in the inner city they should try to make it to the NBA. Like, have realistic expectations, Understand that whatever path you choose, it's going to be complex, whether it's entrepreneurship, a traditional career, or something else entirely.
And even though DeMarco's not a fan of that get-rich-quick thinking, some people pointed out that he seems to be pushing a pretty fast timeline for getting rich himself. I mean, building a successful business takes time, dedication, and often a little bit of luck, even if you're all in on the fast lane.
Yeah, for sure. Even though he talks about getting rich quickly, not quick, his definition of quickly could still mean years of hard work, setbacks, having to change direction along the way.
It's easy to get caught up in the hype, but people need to be ready for the long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
I think one of the most important takeaways from all this, even from the people who disagree with DeMarco, is that you got to be informed and do your own research.
There's so much financial advice out there. It's easy to fall for the latest trends or some guru's promises.
Like we always say, be an informed consumer of information. That applies to money just as much as anything else.
Absolutely. You got to learn about personal finance, do your homework, and think critically about any advice you get, whether it's from a book, a podcast, or even a financial advisor.
Well said. We try to give you a balanced and insightful perspective here on this show. But at the end of the day, you're the one who decides what works for you, what fits your situation and your goals. You're in the driver's seat of your own financial journey. This deep dive into the Millionaire Fastlane has really shown us that personal finance is about way more than just numbers. It's about your values, your passions, how much risk you're willing to take, and how you see your future.
So as we wrap up our look at the Millionaire Fastlane, here's something to think about. Considering everything we've talked about, what path feels right for you, for your dreams, and what success means to you? Is it the entrepreneurial hustle of the fast lane, the steady approach of the slow lane, or maybe a mix of both?
That's the big question. And remember, there's no one right answer. The key is to find a path that feels good and makes financial sense, a path that helps you create a life you love.
Beautifully put. That wraps up our deep dive into the Millionaire Fastlane. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into a fascinating topic to help you navigate the world of personal finance and building wealth. Until then, happy learning.